All right, we can get started. Good morning, everyone from San Francisco. Um, as you can see, Nicole has the Golden Gate Bridge in her background. I couldn't find that nice background on my screen, but uh, if you were here and if you we were Nicole and I and Truewind are based out of San Francisco, and if you did come to the city to see fireworks on July 4th, you know that fireworks by Golden Gate Bridge was covered by the fog. So visibility was a 0 out of 10, but from the videos I've seen, the vibes are good. But thanks for being here, and welcome to the AI and Accounting 101 workshop. So let me introduce myself. My name is Reagan Matsumoto. I'm one of the accounting architects here at Truewind. And my background is primarily in accounting. I started off at Ernst& Young in assurance, auditing both private and public companies before joining Fin, formerly known as Intercom, on their general ledger team. So I've seen both sides as an auditor and as an in-house accountant. I've seen what it takes to convert the financial data into journal entries, to recons, to fluxes, to financial reporting. So my goal for this workshop is to show you live how AI can augment and upskill accountants in our day-to-day tasks. And with that, let's walk through our agenda today. So what we'll be covering today in around 45 minutes is first we'll start off with a quick audience check-in with polling questions. Then we'll kind of go and talk about where AI fits in accounting and why it matters to the accounting organizations in your team. From there, we will go through kind of like a live demo on how to, generate an SOP. And use that to create an accounting agent by transcribing kind of like your process that you do. Um, and we'll be using Claude Code to do that. So we'll be taking like a payroll register and converting that to a journal entry that can ultimately be uploaded into your accounting ERP. And then at the very end, we'll close with a Q&A session and a preview of what the workshop for Accounting 102 will be like. All right. And then also I have my co-host Nicole here. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, throughout the workshop, feel free to throw them in the chat. Nicole is my co-host. She'll be kind of like monitoring it. And kind of throughout the call, we can kind of go through it and we can kind of go through it at the end. So hopefully we can get to most of the questions today. Okay, so the first question we have, our first polling question is, have you used an AI tool before, which could be Claude, ChatGPT, Truewind, it doesn't even have to be accounting related. It can be like, Perplexity, Gemini, or whatever it might be. Um, and so yes or no. Give everyone like a couple seconds to answer that. Have you released it? Okay, thank you. Yep, the polling question should be up now. All right, I'll give it a couple more seconds. All right, yeah, and we can end the poll. So it seems like most of us here have used AI, an AI tool in some capacity, and whether it's for accounting or not, it seems like it's pretty slightly more than half. So yeah, I think that's like good. I think from my experience that everyone has like a different experience level, different varying levels of experience and opinions and usage with AI. So I don't think there's like one right way to use it. And I think that's what this workshop is for. So we can go to our next polling question. This question is, click which of the following you are familiar with. and have used for work or daily life. One is AI coding agent. So that would be like Claude Code, Codex, Cursor, GitHub, Copilot. B, general AI chat assistant. So like Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, just like kind of what you use on your browser or maybe on your mobile app on your phone. C, general AI work agents. So that would be like Claude Cowork, ChatGPT agent, similar tools with complete multi-step tasks for your files. Something that's like maybe not coding specific. And then D would be like vertical domain specific AI tools. So that's what like Truewind is. Maybe if you're in accounting, or you'd be using Ramp, maybe Ledge, some other tools. We'll give people some time to respond. I did. Okay. Do you want to share? Yeah, share the results for this one. So yeah, I think so 83% of us have used, the general AI chat assistants. I think that is very common. That's when ChatGPT first came out. That's what you do. When you just type something in Google, that's what Gemini is. So that's what like for the most part we're most familiar with. And I think the reason why we're asking this question is we'll be using Claude Code for our demo. And it seems so about 17% of us here have used Claude Code, and like that's like totally fine. I think, if you have any questions about maybe the functionality of it, we will kind of go into, I guess, what's the difference between like Claude Code, Claude Chat, and Claude Cowork. Um, and yeah, but if you have any questions about things as we go on, I will be ans we can put that in the chat and the Q&A, and then we can kind of address those. All right. All right, let's keep going. So, um, we'll go into like kind of like just the background of like AI and accounting. And I think one question, we've all been hearing is, will AI replace accountants, or will AI just replace jobs in general? I think is kind of a lot of the questions I've been hearing, and the question I have asked myself. For me, I don't think that's right, or that it will. I guess time will tell. But for me, I think as of right now, I think what I do think is true about AI and accounting is it will replace repetitive rule-based parts of accounting work. And I think if that is where a lot of your time goes, then that's like, I feel like a real shift worth paying attention to. Can we go to the next slide? So we do have some quotes from some of the leaders in accounting and studies that have been done. Um, Carl Mays, who's the VP of Ethics and Firm Quality at AI CPA, said, when it's a bot doing it, you need somebody to supervise that bot. You can't just accept that the bot has done it right. For us to supervise the bot, we have to understand the underlying procedure, even if we're never going to do the procedure ourselves. Nanshi said in one of the Stanford School of Business studies around accounting that the technology is not here to replace the human being. It's here to augment the experts who are already in place. So I think the theme here is that AI will augment and upskill what accountants do, and accountants still need to own the process. We still need to understand what we are doing and what is kind of going into AI. And we're going into like maybe the AI workflows with AI agents. I think one analogy I heard someone say is when spreadsheet softwares like Excel came out, it didn't eliminate the accounting profession. It eliminated a lot of the manual, repetitive calculation work and shifted accountants' roles more towards like analysis, systems, big data, and maybe more judgmental tasks. Um, so instead of maybe having to like take a calculator and add 100 rows of lines, it's just like a sum function in Excel that takes maybe like 10 seconds. So I feel like AI, if anything, is a tool that is changing the job more than replacing the people doing it. So next question would be, what AI can and maybe can't do for accountants. I think that's like a really good thing to maybe like kind of understand. I think right now AI is very good at taking structured data and turning it to like consistently formatted output. It's good at running the same process identically across months, teams, or entities. So if you're in month-end close side and in-house accounting side, that is very valuable if you have to run, prepaid every single month. If you're doing accruals every month, leases. Um, and even if you're on like the audit side, you're running like certain types of tests all the time as well. It can be really good at writing fluxes and doing trend analysis when provided like context with it. And it's very good at following documented processes exactly as, written. Um, some things it's not so good at is if your software expense went up because, AWS raised rates in March, the AI won't necessarily know that without context. It's not great at maybe exercising judgment, something it hasn't seen before. And, it replaces the accountant who it cannot replace the accountant who doesn't understand like the business, cannot manage your relationships with the client or the auditors as well. So, it is still very limited, I guess, in what it can do. And so I think one thing sorry, we can go back. Sorry. Thanks, Nicole. I think one thing that we can frame for today is that, and how we can like look at AI when we're looking at the demo today is that it is very fast. It is I would look kind of at it like an intern or maybe like a new hire who is very smart, who's very capable at doing almost anything that you ask it to do. But you still have to teach it what to do. You still have to give it context. And the more, I guess, you teach that intern, that new hire, the better they'll be at that job. Maybe the more context they'll give, and the less context you have to give the next time. So human intervention in all of this is still very necessary, but it can reduce the amount of time that you do have. So let's kind of get into it. And I think so. One of the first things is there's not going to be a polling question for this, but I guess how many of you have like a monthly close process or maybe some process that you have that kind of just lives in your head or maybe one person's head in your organization? Or maybe it's in like some 5-year-old email chain or in some Excel workbook that's lasted 10 plus years that maybe only really one person knows how to maintain and interpret. That is kind of the institutional like knowledge problem that I feel like, I experienced this when I was at EY and Intercom as well. Some things you just don't document, and it's not because you're lazy. It's not because like you don't want to. It's hard to just document all the small little things. Like maybe you hide a sheet here, or maybe like one singular cell is hard coded because you pull it from this um, software from the specific page on the screen. Like it's hard to document every little thing that you do. And in accounting, because things are so precise, those little things do matter sometimes at the end of the day. I think this is one problem AI is very well, positioned to solve. It's not replacing the knowledge, but extracting it and making it reusable. So in this like three-step process, to kind of help with this institutional knowledge problem and just kind of like documentation, it's important to have a standard operating procedure, and we will be referring to this as an SOP, as you see on the slide. This will help to document what all the steps are to get from point A, which could be, the source file, to source D, which is, the endpoint. It could be a journal entry, it could be a reconciliation, it could be maybe a testing if you're an audit. Um, but for today, we'll be using a journal entry as an example. Um, and I think for the SOP, it should be detailed enough so that if a new hire, an intern, were to join the team, they'd be able to recreate or redo the steps that are in the SOP without having too many issues. So you might be saying, Reagan, I don't have enough time. to create a 10-page SOP for all 15 areas I touch every month. And my response would be, I totally agree, and it's a lot of time. And I think that is where AI can definitely help and expedite this process. And so we will kind of follow this like three-step process, and I'll kind of show you a little bit later. But step one is to like record the process. Open the file process you want to document, hit record. And this can be on if you have Google Meets, you can, I know Gemini does notes, Scribe has this, Zoom also takes notes as well. Here at Truewind, we use kind of like grain and granola as well. So, to record yourself and you want to like kind of transcribe it, you don't need to like script it. You just need to talk, show yourself doing it, but just make sure it's detailed. Second step is you get the transcript. It might be messy, there might be a lot of filler words, it might be a little repetitive, but don't worry, you're not like broadcasting this to the world. You're not going to share it to your whole organization. It's just so that you can input it into Claude or ChatGPT. And step three is um, paste the transcript into where we'll be using Claude, but into into like an AI tool. And with that, Nicole, I will share my screen. We will I'll share an example of what we did for our live demo. So we'll start off with our live demo, starting now. So what I used for this example is we're using a payroll register as an example for this fictitious company called Maple Street Advisor Group. So these are fake people, so don't worry. We're not showing real people's payroll information. Um, so it's a relatively small one, but this is the payroll register. Then, maybe this would come from maybe some company like Gusto or Rippling or Workday. So you get the payroll register, but this cannot be translated, but this cannot be uploaded into, an accounting ERP like QuickBooks or NetSuite or Sage. So this Excel file here is what is used to convert, is what the accountant would use to convert the payroll register into a journal entry. And I'm not going to walk through step by step what I used in the transcription itself. I think it took about maybe like 8 minutes to do. But this is kind of the process and what I kind of told it. Take the CSV from the raw payroll register, I put it into this tab. Um, and up to column P, it's all like copy and pasted, no manipulations are made. And then in columns R and S, we are recalculating like employer Social Security and employer Medicare based off the rates at the top. And so with that, we have our journal entry tab here. And let me zoom in because this is very small. All right, there we go. And so you see the journal entry here, like everyone has a different journal entry template. So this isn't just like some master one we can use, but I think the thing is here, you have different accounts, you have different departments and service lines. Then you have your location and your expenses. And the part that I made to specify with in the call and while doing the live transcript is to make sure that it looks at all the formulas within each Excel tab because it's pulling from specific parts of the payroll register to create this journal entry. I think one thing I called out that I wanted to make sure it noticed was the Social Security and medical part here for like the liability side. Um, these amounts, part of it is coming from the payroll register, but part of it is also just summing up the employer side that we have here. And the reason for that is that the formula is a little bit different from what we're showing and maybe the ones up top. So I just want to make sure that, even if this was like a human doing it, that they're catching that they can't just copy this formulas down, that this one part is different. And then tab 0 is just like a CSV template that is coming from one that's just hard coded. And this is ultimately what will be uploaded into the accounting ERP. So that's just like a really quick TL kind of DR on the process, on how to describe it. Really simple, very easy. I did this through Granola. I got the transcript. And then I just copied it down to my computer. And so then next, I will show you Claude. And let me know if this is too small. So this is Claude Code. Zoom in a bit. Okay. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit. Zoom in, zoom in. Sorry, I am getting used to, there we go. There we go. I am getting used to Mac. I've done Windows my whole life, and now I have a Mac for the first time. So all the shortcuts are gone. All right. So this is the prompt I have, and I'm going to send it for now. Um, and so the prompt reads, and this is in Claude Code, create an SOP for a fictional company called Maple Street Advisory Group. I've attached a transcript in a Word doc that documents the process to convert the payroll register to a journal entry. Utilize this to set up the SOP. Additionally, I've attached a raw file and example of the final output that the granola recording is based off. Please put the SOP you create in the following folder. That I have called here. And I'll kind of talk about this portion a little bit later. Um, but you see that it has like a doc, an Excel file, and a CSV. It doesn't show it right now, but for example, if you're prompting something and then you want to press add, you can go to the add files or folders, or you can just attach a whole folder itself. But what I did is I just took the two files I showed you in Excel, and then I attached the transcribed call version of it. And so I sent this into Claude Code and it's running it. And it'll take about like 5 minutes to kind of create this SOP that we are kind of like expecting. But kind of while we're waiting, um, I did want to explain what the difference is between, what Claude Code, you see Claude Cowork here, and you see chat right here. And you'll think, oh yeah, this looks different from, the browser version or what I use on my app at home or on my phone. So Nicole, I'll stop presenting. Can you share the slide? Uh, okay. Oh, perfect. All right. So while Claude is kind of running in the background, the slide we're showing will kind of help to differentiate what's the difference between Claude Chat, Cowork, and Code. And this kind of goes back to the question at the beginning. It seems like most of you have used chat before, but not a whole lot have used Code and Cowork. And I think that's like totally fair because Code and Cowork hasn't really come out since I think that first got released by Anthropic earlier this calendar year, and then ChatGPT's kind of come out with their own one. Gemini has, so it is a relatively a more new tool that is kind of out there, but it is available to everyone. So, Claude Chat, it's more of a think and talk general chat assistance. This is what we're used to. You can type in questions. For accounting, I've used it for like vocabulary. What does this acronym mean? What does that mean? Sometimes I'll put emails and ask it to like maybe rewrite it, poke holes in it, or just like just questions that you might have about things. It's more conversational. This would be your Chat GPT, Gemini, Claude, Grok, stuff. Cowork is more to like delegate and automate. It's like a AI work agent. And it helps like automate like files and tasks for non-developers or for not coding type of things. And it can get access to different files, programs on your computer. And you can also like schedule things on it. So for example, one thing I have Claude Cowork do for me is I have it review my emails before I wake up, summarize them, highlight important ones, and draft emails for me before I wake up. And I have it scheduled to do it like every morning. And so it's like connected to my Gmail. It has access to, my Google Drive, and my Slack as well. So I think sometimes I use it a lot for like administrative work. But it's also good for like, um, if you want to use it to analyze, like an Excel work paper or some data, Cowork is also really good at that. Um, a personal assistant, yeah. hmm Yeah, no, that's a good point, Nicole. Yeah, it is kind of like a really good like personal assistant, and I think the differences between Claude Code and Cowork and what you can do, I think are fairly similar. If and I have a hard time sometimes differentiating between the two, but Claude Code is more of an AI coding agent, and I think if you're trying to, it's more, I guess, like if you're trying to do code, but I'm assuming a lot of people here are not like software engineers. You're not coding, you're not building things in the code base. So I know that's what Claude Code is used a lot. So you might be asking, why are we using Claude Code for the demo that we are running? And I think the reason for that is that Claude Code, we are creating a Python script. So we're coding something together so that we can create a repeatable process to take the SOP, and then with that SOP, we want to convert the raw payroll register into a journal entry that we can ultimately upload into, an accounting ERP. So we'll use QuickBooks kind of as the example for this. Um, and in my experience, Claude Code because it is a Python script, because they are like kind of coding it, it keeps a more consistent output than if you were to do the same thing in Cowork. Especially trying to create journal entries, I think is one thing. Um, Journal entries are very precise. Every little detail does matter, especially if you're uploading it. Like you need to make sure the spacing is right. You need to make sure you have the right comma, the department number is right. So I think for journal entries, in my experience, I think that the Claude code typically is a little bit better. So we still have the Claude code is still kind of running it in the background. Um, So I'm just gonna like put it in a quick, um, we'll just put in a third webinar question. Oh yeah. Yeah, right. Okay. So it's running a little bit long. So what we're gonna do is we ran two instances of this. So I will show you the one that has already been completed. Yeah, so you'll see, we prompted here. It's still kind of running, in the background. Normally it takes less than ten minutes, normally around 5, but sometimes it does take a little bit longer. So this one here is the one that we've already created on the side. We want to show it live, but to make sure that we don't run out of time, I want to show you what kind of like the output looks like. So we're saying here, same prompt here. Um, and then this is just kind of like Claude Code kind of thinking through it. And then at the end here, it'll say the SOP is created, and that it has created the document here. And this is just kind of like a quick summary of what it has done. So let me show you the output that we did expect and what it did create. So this was the output of the SOP from Claude Code. So you see, very nicely formatted, good color coded. And we won't go through every little thing that's in it, but see, it has a table of contents. But it does have like a very detailed step-by-step process on how to create this just based on the transcription of the call. So yeah, this is just kind of like what it looks like. Is kind of an example. And if you want us to send this to you later, words, we can definitely do that as well. But I will exit out of this. And so I'll go back to Claude Code. So After the SOP is created, the next step is we want to create the AI agent to do this payroll process. So payroll, typically it's done every 2 weeks. And, maybe it takes you like 20, 30 minutes, maybe even an hour to record your bi-weekly payroll entries. But if you can have this agent do it for you in the background every time, that is a lot of time that can be saved. Um, Throughout the whole year, maybe like 27, 26 times, 27 times. So this is a prompt that I put into Code. Um, and it says, I want to create an agent that can repeatedly prepare journal entries from the payroll register every month or biweekly. Use the SOP in this folder and the 131/2026 payroll register and journal entry example provided in the previous prompt. I want this skill to be called Maple Biweekly Payroll JE. Make sure everything is formulated. Please put the file in this folder and label the workbook as this, and the source can be found here. So, and then the last one is please ask any clarifying questions before creating this. And I guess, Nicole, how are we good on timing? How many minutes do we have? 10 minutes. Okay. So I think the most important part of this is the prompting. So when I send it this file, you'll see that I have it in these things here in parentheses and then over here. And it looks really messy and you're just like, what does that even mean? This is just showing Claude where it can find specific files on my computer. And this is formatted for Mac, but if you were to do it on Windows, it would look very similar. And one way you can find it is if you open up Finder, and this is on Mac, but I think if you do it in Mac, if you just to like double click on the header, you're able to like copy the file path. But if you're on Finder, if you find these three dots, and you say go to say get info, you can go to this, it's really small. But under this where area is where you can copy this, and that is where I did it. And the reason why you can attach it physically every time, but what I've seen in some accounting organizations a lot of time is files are saved in Google Drive and SharePoint, and they're organized by month and by like accounting processes. So like payroll, prepaids, deferred revenue, leases. Um, so the logic on where these files are stored are very easy to follow for, Claude Code, where it can identify the files it needs without you having to attach it every time. And for me, that was a big time saver. So that's why I prompted this way. But alternatively, you could add these files by pressing this plus button. The other one I want to highlight is please ask any clarifying questions before creating anything. And I think especially when you're using Claude Code, um, you want to make sure that it understands everything. Even though you gave it to SOP, sometimes, it might take guesses, it'll take assumptions. And AI isn't very good at admitting it doesn't know something unless you tell it to admit it doesn't know something. And one of the good features of this is it will not create the workbook. It will not create the code until it asks you these clarifying questions. And I want to show you folks this live because I think it is fairly interesting. But this box here is questions that Claude did ask me. So the lighter highlights are what Claude asked, and the darker ones are what I selected. So it gave me three options on what it thinks it should do. So this question is, what should the skill accept as inputs when invoked? The payroll CSV path will change each run. Should the skill prompt the user to provide the CSV path, or should it auto detect the latest CSV in a known folder? So it's saying, should I just look for it or does the user have to apply it every time? So I said, you should look for it every time. And it'll give you recommended answers as well. So it shows you that it's really like thinking through the process. And in my experience, when you put that prompt, please ask clarifying questions before creating anything. It hallucinates less and it's easier to correct what it's doing once it's been created if you ask this first. Maybe people have other experiences. I'd love to hear it. But that's just kind of like my experience. So that's just kind of like it, what we have about the prompting part. And then, I'm not, this is just thinking through everything. And then at the very end, this was kind of the output. And so the skill here is called Maple Biweekly Payroll JE. And the reason and what a skill is that if you want to do this is for January, but if you want to do this for February, it'd be kind of a lot of work to attach your SOP again, give it all the files again, tell it what to do, right? Like maybe you can do it, but like you don't want to have to tell your intern or your new hire step by step or give them the files and where to look for every single time. So what this does is you can put a backslash and then Maple and then do this. So you see how it says Maple Biweekly Payroll JE? This is saved as a skill on my Claude. And then I could say, do it for February 2026 payroll runs. And it would do it. And it would create the journal entries for the February 2026 payroll runs. But these are things that we will be covering in 102. So now we're almost out of time. So real quickly, I'll show you kind of what the final output is, which is quit all my Excel files. I think it has the same name. And so you'll see here that this is what was created by Claude. You can kind of tell because Claude really likes to format things in blue and dark blue. So that's kind of how I know things are formatted by Claude. Unless you tell it not to do that, I feel like it almost always does it in like blue and dark blue. So you see that it created the files here, created the journal entry here. It added a little check at the bottom, and then it had this CSV import here. So we could go through every little thing that it did, but the ones I called out specifically is this one, where I wanted it to change the formula a little bit, but at the end of the day, we're getting the same numbers for the journal entries. Um, so yeah, this is just kind of like the example of what the output looks like from Claude Code when creating this agent. And just a quick thing is this took about 15 minutes create the work paper agent for the second prompt, and it took about 5 minutes for the first prompt. But you might want to add maybe 5 minutes here or there onto it because sometimes it might take a little bit longer. So yeah, that is the end of the demo. Um, and yeah, we can jump to Q&A. Do we have any questions? Oh yeah, and then I guess before we go to Q&A, just a quick preview for the workshop for accounting 102 is we'll run the same agent. So everything we created today, we will create that. We'll use that agent for a new payroll data set in February. It will not have the answers this time. It'll run it kind of how I showed you in the screen before. It'll run and create the journal entries for February. But this time there will be some nuances to it. It won't be as straightforward. And then we'll also be reconciling the one we just did today with the February ones and how can I analyze some flux analysis as well. And then we'll be covering some other topics. But if there's something you want to see in the next webinar that we didn't cover or that we didn't go in enough detail, please feel free to put it in the chat or email us. Yeah. Okay. Do we have any questions or not? I don't think I see anything. Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to put in the chat. If not, no worries at all. And then Nicole will be putting both our emails in there as well if you would like to email us any questions. Yeah. Okay, and then we will be sharing these slides and material a little bit later today. So if you would like to review that as well. All right, so I think we're good here. So thank you everyone for attending. This was a pleasure. Hope you all have a great, rest of your day and hopefully to see you on our next webinar was it 27th? On the 27th. 21st. 21st. And that's why I have Nicole here. And I remember my dates. So yeah, all right. Thank you everyone. Have a good day.